What's on? Watch me.
So the first video in the series is essentially a taster, right? So we are planning to give you a little bit of a teaser around what we did, why we did it, and also some of the core results. But make no mistake, this is the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more depth that sits behind this. So I'm just going to give you a really, really small taster. So to start with, let's just kind of give some context to the rest of the work. What we wanted to understand was which platform is more effective than another. You know, as an advertiser, that's really important to understand. So is Facebook more effective than TV? Is TV more effective than YouTube? And how you do that is you essentially take it back to how advertising works. And advertising works by essentially an ad being able to cut through and be remembered at the time of purchase. And they're pretty simple, but really critical factors. So what we actually have is we've done a multi-country study considering the cross-platform effectiveness against these attributes that matter. So cut through via attention and sales uplift via product choice. These are the things that matter to your advertising dollar. And how we've done that is through a particularly innovative, rigorous, and agile methodology. And I will add one that is particularly fair. So as you know, I am actually a professor and my job is to be independent. And we have designed this methodology to be completely fair across all platforms, regardless of the funder. So the methodology in a nutshell is a series of collection apps that enable you or the participant to go to a social platform or television, for example, and watch it in natural time and in real time. So someone might log onto Facebook for their actual feed, so it's real. We then intercept ad load with the same ads across all platforms, so there's no unfairness at all where, you know, Facebook gets different ads to television. We transpose facial footage to attention scores and we send people to virtual stores so that we can understand what they've bought. So we basically test what they've seen, whether they've looked, whether they've bought, and that's about as simple as it is. The nature of the technology is that it's particularly agile. So that means in this study, we've actually done 3 countries, right? So we've done Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And what's exciting about that is when we get to the generalizability video is you'll see how the results fare across different boundary conditions. So some of the findings, I can only give you a taste, but essentially one of the core findings is that TV generates more attention and more sales uplift. And we'll give you a lot more as we get into the next video, but this is a really important point. We just talked about the importance of cut through and the importance of memory forming and sales uplift. And without a doubt, TV does generate more attention and more sales uplift than any of its competitors. And again, a small taste, and I haven't explained in detail how this index works, but if you think of 100 as the baseline, anything over 100 is the ad is working. Anything of 100 and over, the ad is working independent of what it would if someone hadn't seen the ad at all. So what this actually shows you is that TV, regardless of device, drives more sales uplift than any other platform. And this is a really exciting thing for television. So some of the other findings that are quite pivotal are that the length of time that a TV ad impacts sales far exceeds that of any of its competitors. So we're going to talk about decay effects down the track, but essentially, again, it's really important that if you are going to invest money in advertising, that it lingers as long as it possibly can in memory. So we test decay and look at ad effects over time. But the short answer here is that length of time that a TV ad impacts sales far exceeds that of its competitors. And the other thing that's really important is time on screen. Now, this is not new news, but TV ads are up to 3 times longer in view than its competitors. And again, in sort of future videos, we'll talk about the importance of attentive seconds and we'll talk about how time does play a role. So for me, I think in summing up, what does this mean for me as a researcher? What I'm excited about is that the strength of TV was found to be stable over many sets of data. So you'll see in our next video on methodology that we actually did 11 different studies across multiple countries. So the strength of TV was found to be stable over many sets of data, and this is important for generalizability across many, many conditions. So what this means is the power of TV is enduring, and that's exciting.
Dear Clara, unfortunately, we can talk frankly because we met on stage last year. Perhaps a bit provocatively, ScreenForce commissioned the study. Did they try to influence the study or you and your team?
It's actually a question I'm asked a bit. So the results that we present and some of the work that we do is actually quite controversial. I understand that. So, you know, often those who are not in favour of the results question the integrity, the validity, the robustness of the work. We do get questions around whether the funder has influenced it at all. And the short answer is absolutely in no way. So, you know, the reality is I'm still a professor in the academic system, and my whole world is about bringing fairness and transparency to method, to make sure that one platform is not disadvantaged over another. So ScreenForce did not at all have anything in terms of impact over the way we did it, nor the results that we present here today.
Customers and agencies generally complain about the pro-domo research of the providers. There are advertising effectiveness studies from Facebook, from YouTube, and now another one from ScreenForce and you. As a critical advocate of advertisers in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, I ask, how neutral can such results be? Can the market rely on these results?
That is a really great question. So the reality is the market is flooded with case study evidence that's not real. The reliability of this work, even if you don't believe me, comes from the generalizability of the results. And we'll talk a lot more about that as the videos progress. But Wolfram, what you'll find is that these results are actually strikingly similar across countries. So when results are similar across boundary conditions, you know that it's real. You know that it's meaningful and can be implemented.
In a nutshell, what is the most important result of the study for you in summary? And what surprised you the most?
The most important finding, I think, is equally the most, well, or not surprising. I want to come back to the generalizability. So we find consistently that the impact of TV is enduring. And now, so we've done this before, Wolfram. We actually did this across 3 countries prior to the ScreenForce work. And again, the results are strikingly similar. So for me, that's the most important finding, that, you know, from a memory perspective, from a sales perspective, from an attention perspective, TV gains the most. So from a return on investment point of view, from an advertiser, that is the biggest, most important piece. So is this surprising? No. I think if I'd have found surprising results, I would have questioned them, to be honest. And that's what often studies don't do in industry. They don't question how surprising they are. They just sort of publish them as real. So the key with meaningful results are the generalizability of their patterns, and that's what we see.
Your research shows very impressively how different the advertising impact is on various platforms. But in order for our advertising customers to get a complete picture of the entire performance of the platforms, wouldn't it also be necessary to take into account the reach of TV, YouTube, and co?
Yeah, absolutely. But what we're doing, by the way, we're in an experiment, right? So we have controlled for the sample, we've controlled for appropriate demographics so that they're equal across platforms, we've controlled for how many impressions people see, but you're 100% right. So the effectiveness is one thing, but reach is another. So attentive reach is what you want to aim for. You want platforms that allow and foster the majority of the attention when you're watching or viewing a platform. But then on top of that, absolutely, you want more people to see it. So without a doubt, but that's not part of this work. So I'm not a rating service, so we're not sort of looking at who gets more views or who has the greatest reach. But without a doubt, if you combine the effectiveness work that we've done and then on top of that sort of stick to platforms that provide the greatest amount of reach, absolutely, you're 100% right.
Last question for today. Karen, short answer, please. You already have conducted the study in several countries, UK, USA, Australia, and presented the results at the Screenforce Days last year. What's new in the edition for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland?
Okay, so you'll see some of the favorites. So we'll look at similar things. Again, I've said that, cut through and sales uplift are important. So they're sort of similar to the other countries. What we did a little bit more this time was look at stats on an individual ad level. So we'll talk a little bit about how the creative performs across the platforms. Again, remember, we held the creative constant. So each platform, the viewers saw the same ads. So what that means is we can see, how those ads perform specifically below the platform level. So I think that's probably the main difference. And the other thing is we haven't ever looked at Instagram before. So Instagram, we built this interface specifically for this work. We've done lots of platforms, but we were asked to build Instagram. So again, none of the results were surprising, but Instagram was new for us as well and exciting to be a part of.
Watch me. Anything could happen. Bigger than we imagine. We're gonna break free. Screenforce, what's on? Watch me.